Ladies and gentlemen, I really like the Deputy Opposition's leader motto. Quitting is never an option. Yet, that is very, very contradictory to that case right now. Because currently there is a very big problem within society. The aid is not reaching the society, and yet they have quitted without actually using religious measures as I just want to be very present with this gospel. So what I'll be doing as a third speaker is very simple. I'll be clarifying at the debate with a series of questions where I'll prove to you why military intervention at the end of the day, we need to use it to actually save more lives and alleviate suffering. So now let's move on to the first point that I'll be raising. Firstly, what exactly is military intervention? Because this point has been extrapolated by the opposition. We tell you that there are two forms of military intervention. Firstly, it would be a political intrusion that aims to topple governments and to eradicate regimes. An example would be Libya. And secondly, there are humanitarian military interventions where we tell you that we provide aid, we use airlifts, there's convoy that actually deliver aids. Examples would be Mozambique and Somalia. And so we tell you that under this case, we're supporting the military intervention to actually deliver aid, and that presence is different within the international community, and I'll further explain this. Secondly, let's look at our second question. Will these people accept the military intervention even if it is from the western part of the society, western part of the world, ladies and gentlemen? We tell you, let's look at a case study currently. The motion says that it is an emergency aid in dire crises, meaning that the situation is very bad. These people are starving. They have not been eating for months, ladies and gentlemen. We tell you a simple analogy is that you're a beggar, you have not yet eaten for 1 month, and yet somebody comes and gives you food. Would you reject it? We tell you no. That is a simple analogy that caters to the so-called anti-West policy. Because the situation is very dire due to what I would have explained by my Prime Minister, due to the lack of government, to the lack of responsibility of the government. And yet, on the third point, they have completely regarded our idea of a public statement, where we already told you that we're going to tell the parts of society that we're going in with humanitarian missions, we're going to provide you food, we're going to provide you healthcare, and with that, we're going to improve your lives. I seriously do not see what's the bad thing in this. No, thank you. And secondly, we would just like to clarify that we are actually not against humanitarian missions for NGOs. We tell you that non-government organizations can still carry out their humanitarian missions, their providing aid, but we tell you that when we use military capacity, meaning that the advanced technology in military equipment, the valuable experience of military personnel to actually treat these people in times of dire crisis, it is definitely better. So now let's look at the second issue, right? Whether or not presence of military, is it good or is it bad? Now, to answer this, I would like to bring to you a comparative analysis, where as my Deputy Prime Minister already told you, violence will always happen regardless whether or not military is involved. And in this case, we tell you that when military is involved in the picture, violence can be reduced and harms can be mitigated. We point to the example of Turkey. The refugee camps near the borders of Turkey, what happened is that it's always attack and loss of lives always happen. We tell you that if we bring military in the picture with better infrastructure, with better military capacity, then that violence can be reduced and harms can be mitigated to a society. And in the end of the day, it fulfills our stance, we're alleviating suffering and we're saving lives. But before I move on any further, any points? Didn't think so. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at what the second speaker has been told. One burden push that they tried to push on us is that they said that we would... second speaker brought up one interesting issue. You see, she told us and she tried to burden push us to solve the conflicts, to solve and to topple the government. So for this, I just like to ask everybody to look at the motion itself. The motion is this House supports military intervention to deliver emergency aid. It's not this House supports military intervention to solve conflicts, ladies and gentlemen. We're sticking to the spirit of the motion, and yet they have gone straight right from the start. So lastly, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at one point that was never discussed, yet Deputy Opposition brought it up. The idea of military leaving after the intervention has finished. That is a point that we never brought up, ladies and gentlemen. But we can consider one thing. We tell you that we will never draw in our military intervention before the conflict ends. And we tell you that even under that situation, military intervention can always be ensured and can always be continued. We tell you that there are plenty of examples within society currently where we have used military intervention for long periods of time. We point to the example of the Palestinian-Israel conflict, where we have been sending military intervention even before the Oslo Accords were signed. We point to the example of how US sends military aid, sends aid to North Korea every year, ladies and gentlemen. So, to sum up their whole case, it really looks nice, theoretical. They say that, they claim that it's for humanitarian purposes, but yet what they're doing is nothing. They're proposing status quo which is already flawed. People are dying in status quo, but yet they are too bigoted to actually say and to actually acknowledge that we have to militarily intervene to actually save lives. And before I put on my summary speech, shoot.
So how is it ever justified for military to kill a certain group in order to aid another group?
Ladies and gentlemen, we never told you that we would have this military kill these belligerents. Okay, under the UN Accords, under the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, Section 25, even then, the laws of, forgive me, pardon me, okay, the best thing is, okay, the rights of engagement, yes, that's the word. See, ladies and gentlemen, under the rights of engagement for any war, we tell you that the military for humanitarian aid can only engage in military actions on defensive reasons. Meaning that once the belligerents attack first, only then can we retaliate. We're not telling you that we're going to send the military to dispose of these belligerents. That was an assertion that came from Deputy Opposition Leader. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be summing up my speech. So what have I told you, what have we told you, basically? What we have told you is that we have to use military intervention in these situations because firstly, the current status quo is too dire and the current status quo is very bad. In times of dire crisis, in times of dire crisis, the government is not able to actually cater to these things when we have to bring military expertise to solve it. They have not yet rebutted one thing. Military intervention in terms of dire crisis, where we tell you that NGOs won't be sufficient to actually cater to the harms that is present within the natural disasters, but yet military intervention can do that. And with that, I'd just like to reinstate our stance. We would militarily intervene to deliver emergency aid in time of humanitarian crisis because we want to save lives and we want to alleviate suffering. And with that, I end my speech. Thank you.
Ali Atira's motto just now. He also has a motto in life. He said that life may never seem fair, but it is never unfair.